Welcome back to the Hawmie Podcast. Today we're sitting with Agua Man. What's up, big dog?
Just chilling, man. How you doing?
Good, bro. Thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me. Happy
Man,
to be here.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. How you doing, though?
Good. We kind of started before you hit record, huh?
Yeah. We always do. We always dive deep, bro. Whenever we're chilling, me and this fool always talk about something crazy. Like, that's one thing we have in common. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, I already knew when I started the podcast, I was like, I need to get you on. You know what I'm saying? Because we always have really good convo. Always.
Yes.
You know
Dig
what
it.
I'm saying?
We're talking about that picture right behind that you took. Where is that exactly?
So this one is actually this one was in Adelanto. So that was at an ICE facility. So it was during those times too, during like 2020, 2021, during the protests that were going down. And there were people that were also talking about ICE and, like, you know what I'm saying, protesting that as well during that time. So that was one of those protests. It was at an ICE facility.
Wow, where they were doing their
kinda
living
dangerous.
conditions were not so right.
Yeah.
They were detaining people and they weren't
Yeah,
providing them what they needed to have a good living or detainment situation. Huh?
at that time, there was stories about the kids getting separated from their parents.
Yes.
That was the big story that was going on. And then after that, there was more that came out about how they were doing, like, forced vasectomies on women. I'm pretty sure, like, forced sterilizations
Yeah.
in those facilities. You know what I'm saying? So
It's wild, but historically this has been done to people.
yeah, in a lot of different countries, not just in the U.S. You know what I'm saying? So it's
You could say they're doing it in way more gradual ways on a day-to-day basis. Because anyway, I won't go too much into this, but I go to fast food to their drive-through sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I like my Big Mac here and there.
yeah.
Hell yeah, I like my double double.
Yeah.
But shoot, every day it's like a hamster going to get some food from that little dispenser in the cage. You know, that's kind of how I feel. I feel way better when I prep my food.
Yeah, you're right.
Not that I always do.
Yeah. It's a lot more time consuming when you prep your own food. So a lot of us don't have that much time when you're going at it, you know, hustling, making a living. You feel me? A lot of people just opt out to the quick food. That's how they get us, man.
Yep. Hey,
That's how
but
it goes.
even there they have the good options too.
Yeah.
I'll still get my Big Mac.
Bro, so take me back. Where'd you grow up, man? What city?
I grew up in Southgate in California. For those that don't know, nice little suburb. Not much to see there. I love it.
That's
Pupusas are awesome.
yeah.
I grew up right next to Watts, so it was not a safe area from what I was told as a kid. You know,
Yeah.
there was a drug dealer lived right across the street, and then there was.
Also, it was popping right there on your street.
You know, as a kid, I was innocent to all this, and I didn't go to a public school. I went to a private school. So
Okay.
I could thank my mom probably for, and I can't say thanks to my mom for that. There's a downside to it, but there's an upside.
Yeah, for sure.
You get sheltered, and I remember the public school kids would bully us because you could identify us with our uniforms, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
So
sure.
we'd get bullied and stuff. It's funny to think about now, you know?
Uh-huh.
We grew up on a street called Stanford and Missouri was that little intersection. And the street just north of, what's that, Missouri was Kansas. There's a gang situated or headquartered right there. I don't know
Oh,
what the proper
yeah,
term would be.
Kansas. No, that I've heard of that street. That's a famous street in the gang culture.
Is it?
Yeah.
This is something I wouldn't know about. I grew up right next to Long Beach. Like, the next street east of Stanford was Long Beach. So Long Beach
Oh, yeah,
and
it was in the
Kansas.
hub of all that then.
Yeah.
Okay. No, for
Yeah,
sure.
so I don't know much of the history of that gang other than I saw some of my friends end up in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it was so close.
And one of them was the nephew of the gang head, the leader.
Oh, okay.
So by
Yeah.
relation, he was already getting targeted. And when he went to high school, you know, it wasn't a private school; it was in Southgate High.
Yeah.
So out of necessity, he joined because they were not going to back him up unless he he joined.
Uh-huh.
He was, and again, he's being targeted because of the blood relation. He didn't want to be in it, but he had to, just to get the backup, you know?
No,
it's kind of crazy, huh?
It is, yeah. I'm lucky I didn't have to deal with any of that. Because when people have to deal with that, like, they go through a lot. You feel me? Like, jail, fucking, they die. All of it, you know what I'm saying? Like, people really go through it through certain gangs, you know what I'm saying? And obviously it's not all ugly. People look out for each other in gangs, you know what I'm saying? So it's a beautiful thing too. It's just however you were moving, really, at the end of the day.
He got out. That's the good thing, because we had another friend who, my first friend that I mentioned, was not into it because he grew up watching this stuff from his mom's side, and his brother, his uncle on his mom's side, the head. And I think it turned him off because he also had a dad who was like, you know, kept his nose clean, was a stable father figure and stuff like that. Then I had another friend. He was our friend. He loved all that stuff. Like, he's the guy that introduced me to NWA. I had no clue. I was hearing this stuff in 3rd grade. I'm like, are we going to get in trouble for listening to this? You know?
That's funny.
And he loved the whole idea of it, you know? He'd say the words and try to act hard and all this. He's a 3rd grader. It's funny to think of a 3rd grader. At this age, you see one doing what he was trying to do, which was to seem all hard and stuff. They had a Doberman Pinscher. He thought he was cool because of Snoop Dogg, how he always had the Doberman Pinscher as his like logo guy or whatever, the dog that he would use. So, and unfortunately, he just talked too much, and they're like, all right, prove it. So he joined. Out of them deciding, all right, we're done listening to your bullshit. They beat him up. He was in the gang, and I haven't seen him in a few years, but the last time I really heard or seen of him was like 8 years ago. He was still involved. And so you got two different stories, because the first guy ended up saying at 18, I'm getting the fuck out of here. I'm going to go to the Marines. And then he did that. And then he actually tried to join the police force. And then after that, it didn't work out because of reasons. He now does real estate, and he's got like a beautiful family and things like that. So.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. No, yeah, it's always good when people, you know what I'm saying, do the better option and not like just ruin their lives, because you can ruin your lives, like going straight, like, you know, going straight for the streets. You feel me? Like you can even get addicted to something, you know what I'm saying, and freaking OD, or, you know, there's always like so many different avenues that can go wrong. But it's like when they make it through, it's like, bro, that fool is strong. Whoever makes it through like that, like,
he's an inspiration.
Mad respect, you feel me? And even respect to the people still out there, bro, in the streets, like pushing the streets, like handle your business, you feel me? Like, I respect it.
You're born into it sometimes. This is what I've noticed, and it's all you know. And so I've met people who didn't know a different way, you know?
Yeah, and
they just never had it presented to them a different way.
Yeah, sometimes people don't have the right, you know, backing and all that. But what'd you do, like, growing up over there? Did you play any sports? What were you up to, like, as a kid, like going into middle school, going into high school? What'd you do?
My dad threw me in soccer, and I was in there for a very long time.
Okay, how many years?
From 1st grade to about 7th.
Oh, 6 years of soccer. What position, bro?
I did them all, and I sucked at every single one. I was not a good soccer player, bro. I was never, the competitive edge didn't come out in me till I started doing jiu-jitsu in my early 20s.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I felt comfortable, kind of like with this, nah, bitch, this is mine, I'm winning mentality. But as a kid, I was just running on a field, and I had all these adults mad at me, you know, because I'd scored on my own team or whatever. By accident, only once. I only made 2 goals. In all my 7 years. One was on my team, and one was actually, no one expected it. I just kicked the ball, and it curved perfectly right into it probably grazed the post on both sides as it went into the goal, and everyone it was like a moment of silence, and then everyone cheered, and suddenly I was a hero for the day. I remember there was one team, and we actually practiced at Southgate. We never won a game.
Oh.
Like the whole season, we never won.
I've been on a team like that before. It happens.
Yes.
It happens. Or like only win one game. Yeah, it happens.
What's worse is when the coach really cares about whether you win or lose, because you should care, right? Like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe there's just a big, like a nice crop of really good players that season in the league or whatever. So maybe you have someone will have to be the team that never wins. But it's just, hey, y'all showed up to training. Y'all did your best, good job, let's work on our stuff still. But our coach cared, would get upset and frustrated when we'd lose.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny because one time we did not lose. We were 1-1. They scored one, we scored one. And as the clock ran out, we were like in anticipation, and our asses ran like we won a super, like a championship game,
And there's a tie.
And the other team they were upset that they tied with the team that never won.
Team with the worst team, and you guys were cheering. That's hilarious.
That's some like what you call underdog stuff right there. That was a fun memory.
That's hilarious.
Other than that, though, I mean, I like to read a lot. I would just read books that. And when I was 14, I loved wrestling, pro wrestling.
Since a kid?
I got into it. My first memory is like watching the TV. My babysitter was there. Her name was Wendy. Nice girl.
Shout out Wendy.
Yeah. What's up, Wendy? I haven't seen Wendy in like 13 years. Because, she was our family friend.
Yeah.
It was Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, and I was like, what is this? And then Andre the Giant was like a weird-looking guy. Most people probably know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, huge.
He had he had a growth hormone secretion thing that made him just keep growing and growing. And
do you think he took something for that, or do you think that was a natural thing that was just happening in his body? Do you know?
Yeah, it was a natural thing.
Wow,
and
that's wild.
It could be hyperactive, or it can go the opposite way.
And you go super small?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice,
the movie, yeah.
The one guy that goes around who's pretty funny. He's like a short guy, and he's got a small head, and he was on Howard Stern. If you look, he's the guy in the meme, just hanging around.
Oh, okay.
You seen that meme?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
That guy, he's a comedian, pretty funny guy. I think he has the opposite, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
But Andre had the one that over secreted the growth hormone, and so he just kept growing. So if you ever go to a wrestling museum and you see the mold of Andre's hand, your whole hand would probably it would be mostly in his palm. You know what I mean?
That's wild.
This dude would drink the stories of him drinking 96 beers. If you see a picture of him holding a beer can, it's like the beer almost gets lost. Like the whole beer can fits in the palm. You know what I mean?
Crazy. That is crazy.
He never got it taken care of. He could have had the surgery to handle that, but he didn't. And so everything kept growing. The weight kept affecting his joints and stuff like that. So he was in a lot of pain.
Did he how is he still alive, or did he pass away? I'm not sure on the history of that.
Yeah, he passed away in 93, I believe. 93. Okay. He was at a he's a Frenchman, so he went to his father's funeral in France, and he died in France.
Dang, so he died after his dad's funeral?
Yeah, and I believe he was 44 years old.
Dang, that's pretty young, man.
Yeah, but he looked because of his features with
him growing older and older and older.
He looked, I would have not assumed he was a 44-year-old guy. But I mean,
okay. That's how old he looked. Okay, that makes sense.
He had unusual features because of the growth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just imagine, eventually that thing stops. The pituitary gland stops sending out that growth hormone naturally in people who don't have that whole acromegaly thing. But with him, it just kept growing. If you see him when he's young, you could see more he looks more normal, put it that way. Just like a normal. Later on, his features. His teeth look tiny compared to the mouth that they're in.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
That's crazy.
So as a kid, I didn't know all this. I just seeing this guy on my screen, towering over Hulk Hogan, and that was my first memory. And Hulk Hogan was my guy.
That's so tight.
For a cool while. Then it became Bret Hart. Because there's this whole thing where the steroid guy, the federal government cracked down on the whole steroid and drug thing in the WWF back in the day. So McMahon had to start cleaning stuff up, and he had to switch the direction of the stars that he was pushing in his
Because
company.
everyone was juiced, huh?
Yup.
Up like crazy, huh?
No regulations or nothing. But that's why in the late 90s, you had all these guys that were stars in the 80s passing away in their late 30s into their 40s.
Shoot.
Because that stuff doesn't go away once you stop necessarily, unless you've done it smart.
Okay.
And from what I know, there's a science to it. I've been asked if I'm on steroids when I'm actually like working out really good, and I've never taken one. I've never taken any, but I have friends that have.
Yeah.
And they tell me that there's cycles that you do them for specific purposes, and then you stop. I'm not recommending it myself just because I never done it, and I have no incentive to ever do it myself.
Yeah, because like long-term wise, it messes you up, right? I mean, for the short term, it's great, right? Because you're getting huge, but...
Yeah, you're getting huge and cut. I'm sure that the movie stars, the ones that when they take the shirt off and all that, and they flex, and you see like all the sections of their muscle, they probably but it's under supervision, I'm sure.
And then through a doctor, and it's probably like a super small dose. Like if you're just doing it on your own, you're probably overdosing yourself, like doing all the craziness.
And it also affects your mood in a way where some guys can get addicted to that feeling because it makes you feel invincible, and it makes you able to tolerate, certain things that a human shouldn't be able to tolerate. Because the thing I learned in my years, anyway, I'll fast forward a bit. I do wrestling these days. We're talking about childhood, but I do wrestling these days.
Yeah,
I've learned that when it comes to pain, not to ignore it, but to address pain and to treat it one way or another. And I use a lot of like flexibility, stretching techniques to handle a lot of pain. I've once upon a time had sciatica, and within a week I had gotten rid of it. And I taught my dad how to do the same thing because he had it too. So I taught him these hip stretches, and his mind was blown that you could...
Some hipster stretches? I've never heard of these stretches.
I know.
Just kidding.
You're just not cool enough,
That's tight though, bro. Keep going. So you taught him some hip stretches, and they helped his sciatica and everything?
Yeah. I used to be completely against... well, not completely against. There was about a 7-year period where I didn't touch weed. I do now once in a while. It takes the edge off. But I can go without it, but in that 7-year period, I wouldn't even touch aspirin.
Yeah.
And it trips me out to think that during that 7-year period, I had a separated shoulder, I had a bruised tailbone, all the wrestling injuries. I had, what else did I had some it wasn't a broken rib, but it was something that was inflammation in the rib, and rib stuff is really tough because you can't laugh or sneeze without,
oh my God,
or even sleep if you end up in the wrong position. You have to find the right position. That was a rough night for me. You have to find the right position, and then if you move as you're, throughout the night you're moving,
it'll wake you up.
Yup, and now you're back to trying to find the right position long enough to fall asleep. So that was a rough night. And in that whole time, I didn't even take aspirin. I was just like, I'm gonna suffer. It's crazy. I can't believe I'd do that. Because nowadays, I'll just give myself a little relief, Let me take a little toke or whatever. And
you wouldn't even do nothing at that point, you're saying?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I can't believe it now that I look back on that,
Yeah.
But yeah. So high school was fun. I did a lot of. I'm not saying go do it, but I did a lot of backyard wrestling.
In high school.
That's when it was at the height of backyard wrestling. It was on the news, and they were presenting it like, this is happening in your backyard, and they were showing the worst, the most like dangerous stuff.
That's hilarious.
Meanwhile, that's probably like 10% of the show, maybe.
Uh-huh.
And then the rest of us are just like, can I cuss?
Yeah, of course.
The rest of the show is like my trainer, Robbie Phoenix, says, it's like two monkeys trying to fuck a football. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just imitating what we saw on TV. It was just like clumsy ass.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But then you had the guy throwing another guy through a table, which is just 2 chairs and a piece of cheap plywood set on fire. And then he like power bombs him through it on the concrete underneath. Or yeah, I remember one time there was like a buried alive match we did in Fontana, and so they dug a hole that was about 3 feet deep, and the one dude's like, here's what we'll do. I'll put you on my shoulders. I'll put a board down and I'll light it on fire. Cool. Then I'll put you on my shoulders and I'll spin you and slam you essentially kind of like head, shoulder first through it. And I was 14 at the time.
No.
But I looked. I was probably this size around that time already, except pudgier, you know.
Yeah.
Less hair and less beard.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's
and he
hilarious.
did it. It was on fire.
And so what happens with all that fire when you go, like, you know what I'm saying? You hit everything. What happens with it? It gets on you, no? Like.
My thing is that I wore a jumpsuit, like one of those thick jumpsuits from jail that I bought at the Santa Fe Springs swap meet for $5. I just bought it for fun. I bought like 3 of them. I bought a red one, a white one, and a orange one.
Uh-huh.
So when I started doing this backyard wrestling stuff, I wanted to create like a character. Mm-hmm. A lot of the guys weren't really doing that. I didn't realize that. Uh-huh. So I was kind of, my mind was a little on like
ahead of the game a little bit.
Yeah, you could say that creatively as far as presentation. Yeah, I used a $10 mask, lucha mask. Yeah. Funny enough, it was the mask of a guy that I recently got to tag team with, a lucha libre legend named Fuerza Guerrera.
Oh, nice, bro.
It's cool, man. I didn't tell him any of this, but thank you. That was fun. He's awesome, man.
You're working with the big dogs, huh? Every once in a while, you get in touch with them, and that's tight, bro. Cause like you're really surfing the underground. It seems like the WWE, or not WWE, because that's obviously the big corporation, but the wrestling underground. You know, like the real, lucha libres and I look at your Instagram and I'm just like, bro, you are like. I guarantee you when people go to these shows, they're so excited to see you because, like, bro, you can be in WWE. I see you, like, that you can be in WWE. You feel me? You're, like, in the biggest corporation for wrestling because you just have it. You know what I'm saying? Like, your energy and your characters that you build and everything. So, it's tight, dude. Tell me, would you rather be successful in, like, WWE, big corp, or, like, doing what you're doing now and, like, doing these shows that are like kind of in the wrestling underground?
I like creative control, and when I was a kid, it's funny that I can actually say this. When I was 13, so anyway, Hulk Hogan was my favorite. Then it became Bret Hart. Bret Hart, because that guy was able to tell a story and he was very technical. So those two elements to this day excite the hell out of me.
Oh, okay.
When I see who I'm wrestling, I try to in my mind see, okay, what's the story? What's the story to tell today?
That's cool, bro.
And sometimes you got the stories in your back pocket, and other times they just appear out of nowhere, and that's the fun process for me. The training, which I do regularly, that handles the technical side, so I can get in there and I don't have to overthink, and I know where I have to be and what I have to do. Just like with anything you do, the more you do it, the better. So I train twice a week at least, and I've trained in different styles. Under some really interesting, diverse people over the years.
What are some of those styles?
One is like lucha libre, which is a Mexican style of wrestling. For those that don't know, in translation, it means free fight. I've watched a lot. I get into a lot of the old footage from the golden era of wrestling when TV was just starting and it was broadcast and produced because it was cheap to produce. It was easy to produce. And number one. And number two, everybody was on the same page about keep the secret on the hush-hush, because if people are wondering, what is this? What's the nature of this? It makes them want to see it. Because once upon a time, it was like you had a 4-hour match between two dudes who were just at a theater, like a fancy theater, just trying to get the other to tap out, to give up. And so it'd be like, eventually the promoter said, we got to make this where, okay, it's kind of wearing out. People don't want to come and see two dudes for 4 hours, like, grapple.
Damn, so this was in Mexico? Or were you saying just here in the U.S.?
You know the history of lucha libre? Maybe it parallels it. I never researched it thoroughly to the point where the early 1900s. But in America, that's how it was. Where it was like you had guys
4-hour matches. That's crazy. And they were actually just trying to tap each other out. Like they weren't creating their storyline and all that. You know, like that's crazy. Continue.
Just in a fancy theater, just right there for everybody to watch. And at first, when there's no TV, this is exciting. Like there's no TV to watch. There's no competition as far as entertainment goes. It's just two dudes going at it, like no striking, just grappling. And
Yeah.
so this could be entertaining, especially like, oh, who's gonna win? And you could be there for 4 hours, but once you've seen this enough times,
Yeah,
okay.
you want something new, something fresh.
So that's when they changed the nature of it, and started moving things around and making it so that you can pull out fancy techniques and, you know, creating characters that would, what they call in wrestling, draw, or, you know, pull people in to buy tickets.
Yeah.
This came as a result of, they would do this by creating
Okay.
a heel and a face. So who would be the guy that this particular audience would hate, and who would be a guy this particular
Loves.
audience loves?
Yeah.
And so how do you determine that? You got to see who's in that environment, in that area. Like, for example, WWF's one of their longest reigning champions was named Bruno Sammartino, and he was an Italian guy. And so for that reason, and he was just considered, he was just like a burly, muscular, like he was one of these thick muscle guys. I don't think he was on roids.
Because it was back in the day.
Yeah, well, we're talking 60s, 70s. And this dude was like big and just a manly looking dude, like a clean cut looking manly dude. Back in the day when it was just, you would wear trunks and black boots, not even knee pads for the most part. Different places have different things, but Bruno Sammartino was of this type, and he was the Italian guy. So in New York, that was like the guy. New York was where the WWF was established.
Okay.
So, and who can you put him against that, you know, would be booed? There was one rival he had, Stan Hansen, supposedly broke his neck with what's called a lariat clothesline, which is a very powerful clothesline. Did he really break his neck? I mean, I wasn't there to look at that x-ray, so I don't know. Maybe he did. Yeah. That's the best part of this, Nate, telling these stories, is making people wonder.
They become like myths, like mythical stories to me, like the way that you're describing it and everything. I guarantee you and other wrestlers speak about these things at times, you know what I'm saying? Or people who really just love the culture and the wrestling culture, you know what I'm saying? Like these little Easter eggs, you know what I'm saying, that you're sharing with me here. But we're going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back. You were talking to me about what you would rather prefer, the corporation, like working with like a big WWE, or like staying solo, doing your own thing, like in the underground, you know, scene. What you said you always like creative control, and so go into that.
Well, I contacted a few promoters recently and told them I'm taking time off for a little bit. I got a few shows. Funny enough, I ended up getting more dates after, because some of them convinced me, hey, they're like, I understand. How about these dates? I'm like, all right. I'm taking time off to set things up so I can actually have that control. And by control, I mean I got to get a ring and a truss, lighting, sound system, truck to transport all this, etc. Because I want to start my own company altogether. You know, get the licenses and all this and the sponsors to make this happen. It's going to take me maybe like 20 grand to get the whole thing set up at the standard I'd like, which is doable. I just tell myself it's doable. I pretend I'm a millionaire. When I really am a billionaire, you know. Keeping myself humble, you know. So I'm grateful for every opportunity I've had in the ring. But yeah, when you mention WWE as it is now, or even the other big one, their competition currently, AEW, you know, I don't like, I never wanted to be the old guy sitting here being negative about what I watch. If I don't like it, I just won't watch it. I'm not a huge fan of the products for reasons, and they're technical usually. But at the end of the day, I realize that's just my opinion, and other people can like it. And if I'm not paying attention to what the fans like, am I really doing them a service? You know, because at the end of the day, the fans. I've been on shows where they're like, "We want you to be a bad guy today," and I'll tell them. Or in Lucha Libre, they call it a rudo, which is just a word for bad guy. In English, it's heel. And I'll tell them, hey, I don't think that's a good idea. No, we're bringing in this guy from TJ. Everyone loves him. Yeah, but I don't think it's a good idea. I'll do it, but it might not go the way you think, because we're running let's say Bell Gardens, or we're running South Central, I'm gonna sell tickets.
Yeah. People know you. They're coming to see you.
Yeah, and even if they're a fan of this guy from this spot or that guy from that spot, they're not gonna hate me enough. They're not gonna hate me. They're gonna love me. So all the love they have for him is gonna get watered down.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And I've had this happen where, all right, I'll do the chamba. I'll go around and I'll do my best, and I'm trying to do all the stuff that would typically get you booed by being arrogant and like.
And they're like, yeah. That's hilarious, dog. That's funny though.
It's because I got a beard and long hair and I'm big, so automatically, for some reason, that makes you a bad guy. And on top of that, I do the bad guy stuff pretty good. I like being the bad guy.
Yeah.
I'm good at it.
What's one of the things that you do once you're up there and it's like obviously it's like when you're slamming people, but then it's also like your reaction after, right? Like how you're portraying the slam, right? Like stuff like that, right? Like.
And even before that, just walking through the curtain, if I'm a bad guy, there's a switch to hit. And if I'm a good guy, there's a switch to hit. And if I'm a new guy in a company, there's a switch to hit. And if it's a certain kind of crowd, I got little switches that I have developed over the years. So if I'm a good guy, I'm just going to connect with people. Like there's lots of pictures that I don't even remember being taken. There's these two little boys that this dad and their mom always bring, and I've posted pics with some of those. I love those two kids. They come up to me after my match, no matter what, win, lose, face, heel, and they'll throw a couple bucks my way. And,
that's tight.
And I'll pick them up, and I'll never be a bad guy to them, no matter what. If I'm at a show and they're like, "You got to be a bad guy," I'll still pat them on the head, but. and I'll acknowledge them. Like I remember one time the little boy came right up to me. I don't have to go and kiss babies and clap and cheerlead. Those little boys came right up to me, and the little one's showing me his push-ups. He was all proud. I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do them with you. This is like 2 steps out of the curtain. He like ran right up and he's showing me his push-ups and how strong he is and all this. And
bro, that's so tight.
I don't have to do anything except just interact with him the way I normally would if nobody was in the room. And boom, good guy automatically. I'm scheduled to be on a show this Sunday in South Central on 132 East Florence, and
so pull up.
Yes,
pull up.
Don't bring the kids to this one though. It's called Crimson Crown. They're like bloodthirsty crowd.
Oh, okay.
And I've worked these bloodthirsty crowds.
This episode is gonna be next week, so we're gonna miss it. Do you have any other shows that are going after that?
The week after that, let's see what's going on. Yes, this episode will run which day?
Next Wednesday.
So it's running next Wednesday. So that would be I got something, but it will no.
If you don't know the exact date, don't worry about it. Go follow him on Instagram at Agua Man. You know what I'm saying? And he'll post it there. You feel me?
Don't confuse me with that other guy who stole my character and got rich off of it.
Yeah, what's up with that, bro?
The Jason Momoa guy.
What's up with that? Talk about that, dog.
I'm gonna sue him. I got a suit coming up, man. I came up with his character by myself like a week ago, and this guy went and retroactively time traveled and made a movie and made lots of money. But everyone could see I'm way buffer and richer and more handsome than him.
Yeah.
Keeping myself humble.
Yeah.
Yeah, just check it out because I do have some dates and I just accepted some and they're in. I might need a manager or something because I just if someone says, hey, can you be here this date? Sometimes I forget and I'll see the calendar for tomorrow. I'll be like, oh shoot, I got a date. Let me go get my gear, prepare it, and all this. The night before.
Yeah, you gotta get a manager, bro. It's time to bring it because then they can bring you to the next level, handle all the logistics while you just have to show up. You feel me? And do your work. I feel like that would bring you to the next level, bro. I think so.
That would be a good investment, right?
But then also it would be like working with a manager that is also growing too. You know what I'm saying? That's like building something too. You know what I'm saying? So that you guys could, for example, build out the business that you were saying with having your own setup and doing your own shows. You know what I mean? Like a manager can help with that, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's what managers are for.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're the second person to tell me that.
Oh, no shit. There you go.
And it's time. I think it's time because I've been having fun just kind of roughing it out and all that. I like to get my hands dirty.
Yeah, but doing it all yourself, it has its upsides because you're handling everything and like you don't have to pay other people or whatever the case may be. But like it does deteriorate you over time because then you're just doing everything like, and we're just one person only. You know what I'm saying? Like these big like corporations, they got multiple people in one role doing the same job. You know what I'm saying? Like so. We have to remind ourselves that sometimes. Even me, bro, I'd be overdoing it. I do the lighting here. I do the audio here. I do the video. I do the promo clips. I do every little step. You know what I'm saying? Like I need help too. You feel me? Like I can't do everything by myself. So it's the same, bro. Like it don't matter kind of what industry you're in or what you do for a living. It's like the more help you get, the more you can flourish. You know what I'm saying? And grow into something better.
Yeah, you're right. 100%.
So, what was I asking you about? We were just talking
big
about
corporation, right? About
yeah,
working there.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you kind of answered your question though by saying like, I want to do my own thing. I'm gonna start my own.
I got friends in both companies, the big ones, and I know people, or I got friends in the, shall we say, B list, like not the big ones, but the ones right underneath. And I've seen guys grow from the first day of training to, not that I haven't trained people. My trainer Robbie Phoenix has trained people right now that have made it to NXT, WWE, AEW, etc. And I'm happy for them because they, everyone will have their idea of success, and it's an individual thing.
Yeah.
For some people it is getting on TV. I've been there, I've done that, and it's great. Mm-hmm. Fame itself is not a motivator for me. Like the idea that random people on the street will know me doesn't motivate me. But an idea like this little boy coming up and giving me $2, that means the world to me. The push-ups, he showed me his push-ups, that means the world to me. That direct connection. So and the other thing that matters to me is technical proficiency, which that's the part where I can watch the modern product on the mainstream and I'll sit there and I'm not a fun guy to watch wrestling with because I'm analyzing it,
Dude, same with me in movies. When I watch a movie, my lady's like, bro, be quiet. Like, I'm trying to watch the movie. You do the same with wrestling.
I've learned to just shut up. If everyone else is enjoying it, they can look at me and not enjoying it, and I'm not going to explain why. You know what I mean? And not going to lie, maybe there's like, I'll watch an AEW and, there are some matches in there that I'm like, whoa, this is cool. But I'll be blunt. Typically, it's not the ones that people start calling the instant classics. Uh-huh. People like the stunts. They like the flashy moves.
Yeah.
And all this, and this is what's popular in AEW, and I get it. That's what some fans like. And there's some guys on the local scene, on the indie scene in different places I can name that do that style, and I've watched them do it live, and the audience eats it up. Just because I'm not a fan doesn't mean it's not valuable.
Yeah.
It's not. It's a different expression of what I like as a fan and what I prefer as a technician. And I consider myself a technician.
What is a technician? Explain that.
I refine what I do to the point where it covers a few bases. Number one, I can pull it off on pretty much in any situation on anyone. And it's adaptable to... Let's say I'm wrestling a guy that's like 5'3" and weighs 130 pounds, or I'm wrestling a guy that's 350 pounds and he's 6'5", and then I can still execute it in a way that makes sense. I can read the guy I'm working with and analyze what makes sense, not just in the in-ring moves themselves. That's one part of the game. You could be great at that. You could be the best ever at that stuff, but if you can't connect and make it registered to the audience, great job on all your technique, but the audience doesn't care. Mm-hmm. I've wrestled. I went a period wrestling just in black trunks and black boots, nothing fancy, black trunks, black boots, just so I have and zero character, because when I feel like a lot of people get into this game and they make up for their lack of being technical or capable in the ring with, a gimmick.
Acting and go acting just crazy in the ring.
Yes. And the presentation. They overdo the presentation. And hey, we all have our own path. You know what I mean? I did the same thing. I had this over-the-top character when I started. And so, let me turn this off.
Handles, no worries. We all got phones here. It's all good.
Everyone's like, what's that? Never heard that before. I had an over-the-top character, and I did that for a good 3 years. I had this whole backstory to him and everything. I had this whole presentation to the point where I've come to realize that this whole Superman, Clark Kent, being separated by a pair of glasses and the way he acts is real, dude. Because there's people that they would meet me out of character, and they wouldn't know I was the same guy that they watched wrestle that Friday. But I didn't wear a mask. All I had was a pair of glasses and then the character.
Like, no way.
Like,
that's hilarious, bro.
It's real, you know. To put it this way, Superman's the alpha and Clark Kent is the simp or whatever, if you want to call it that.
Yeah. And
it's just the way he carries himself, and then people will feel a certain way about the way you carry yourself. Because as I'm not playing a character on this podcast. Maybe some people will be like, "Is he playing a character?" This is just me being sincere.
Yeah.
And you asked, what do I do when I'm a bad guy? And like I hit the switch, and I must be hitting something that changes me more than I realize when I wrestle. Because, like I said, people would be standing shoulder to shoulder, and someone would call me by my character name, and they'd be like, "Wait, that's you?" But all I was wearing was glasses.
That's crazy, and that's
Goggles.
How much you were, doing your storytelling with that character. Then.
Yeah.
That's deep.
But
that's deep.
Yeah, thank you. But then I went one period of like about a year of just black trunks, black boots, or red trunks, red boots. Just the basic. I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna greet the audience, and I'm gonna go to work. No character, really, other than my character is a mirror of what this audience is doing. So if I'm around bloodthirsty guys, then if they're gonna talk shit, I welcome it. But guess what? You're going to get roasted, motherfucker. I'm going to find something about you, too. I will, and I look for it. The other day, I was in Oxnard, and, I was doing my thing. I was tagging the fans who were sticking their hands out. One dude sticks his hand out, and I go to give him a high five. He swings his hand away like he's trying to get over on me.
Play you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, despite the fact that I came out here being friendly, I'm not the cheerleader. If you're going to do that kind of shit, I'll clown on you. So I looked him over real quick. He had a C-Sun shirt. I got no opinions on C-Sun. Zero opinions on it whatsoever. I looked at him in the eyes. I'm like, I could tell you're a guy that goes to C-Sun. And he got embarrassed and kind of laughed at it,
Yeah.
What does that mean? It just how I said it made him and everyone around. He was trying to get over on me, and I got over on him as a result. So I mirror the audience, and typically that's my character. What is El Agua Man? People want a specific definition of this stuff. But I feel like it's better if every performance is different and you're not stuck to a routine or a certain way of being. Because when you do, it works in one spot and you feel great. And then you go and try the same routine to get the same reaction from another audience in another spot, and it's like a wet fart in church. Because it's different people every time. It's different people in the audience. The audience is not general, like the same every time.
That makes sense.
So for me, it's always been like I'm walking out here like legit, like in knee-high boots and my underwear, because that's what the trunks are. I'm gonna walk out here like I'm not just in my knee-high boots and underwear, just like a normal guy. Like, who the hell does that? If you go to a supermarket and you're dressed like that, people are gonna be looking at you.
Yeah.
But if you're walking in there and you're just acting like, oh no, this is normal. It's kind of my game, and then I'm gonna start mirroring what I see in the audience, and all of a sudden they realize, hey, this guy's paying attention to us, and so they feel they have an impact on the match.
Yeah.
And when people feel that they have a contribution to the creative process, they're gonna contribute.
They're invested. Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah, for sure.
They become emotionally invested into the outcome. I've had grown adults trying to tell a ref, hey, that guy's cheating, because their suspense, their disbelief has been suspended. That's the goal, is that they forget. It's like the movies, right? If it's good, you stop analyzing it. If it's good.
Yeah. If
it catches you on, if it catches on with you, it resonates with you, you're not sitting there analyzing logically. You're just like, what's he gonna do next? Like, what's coming up?
Invested for sure. Yep. What's one of your favorite matches you've been in?
I wrestle a lot of people. And one guy I really like to... I wrestled him the first year. I think he was my second one-on-one match. And then I got to wrestle him one-on-one for the second time recently, last month.
Wait. So you're saying like your first year you got into it, you wrestled him, and then you just recently wrestled him again?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time. How much time in between would you say is that?
My debut was March. I believe it was March 2014. As far as the professional side goes.
Yeah.
'Cause
2014.
2014. So we're talking 9 years.
Wow.
Just a little past 9 years that I've been getting paid one way or another to do this. Meaning sometimes there's guys that train me and never charged me, so I've wrestled for them for free. Things like that. And little by little, of course, you start negotiating for more pay, and because people, your brand builds, people recognize your talent, and they start coming to you instead of you just showing up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like I've done shows where I just show up, they're like, "Can you work?" Yeah. And then they get the freebie to see what I can do. And then not freebie, but sometimes it's just like they'll cover your gas and get enough for like a dinner or something. Yeah. But once they know you and they're reaching to you, well, you better have a business plan, because I really I want to work with people that have business plans. Like, and it's not like, just like the different audience will respond different ways. Different promoters are working with different logistics and resources. So there are some promoters where it's like, don't worry about paying me. I'll take half my sales. You know what I mean? Oh, okay. And then I'll hustle and I'll sell, and I'll get paid more than anybody else on the show because I sold
tickets. Yeah.
Yeah. I did a show where I pretty much covered the cost of the ring with my sales. Oh. Those ring rentals are not cheap, to rent a ring, to rent a venue.
Yeah. How much did it run, roughly?
The cheapest I recently got quoted on a rental was $600. And that's if I provided the labor to set it up. So the dude was just going to transport it.
And you got to set that bad boy up. Sheesh. No, that's a mission. That's awesome though. So I cut you off though. You were saying that wrestling match with that dude. So what was it about, wrestling him? You feel me? Like what was it?
Che Cabrera. His name is Che Cabrera. He's I would say one of the top local guys. And number one, he's got a physique, one of the top physiques in I would say anywhere. Not just the local scene. Like he's a very muscular person.
He's chiseled.
Yeah. Big old arms. He's like got Popeye arms. On top of that, we have good chemistry in there, because he's one of the guys on the scene who actually is bigger than me, size-wise. I mean, he's got way more muscle. I'm probably a little taller, but... So what that means is that I can pull out some of this stuff that I like to do, that I do at training all the time, that I can't do in matches, because most of the guys I wrestle tend to be smaller.
Yeah, you don't want to just... Yeah.
I want to make it make sense to the audience.
Smash him like a freaking... Yeah. Like a smash burger.
Yeah. Krabby Patty burger. But this dude, I was able to pull out the stops on everything. Knowing,
tight. Yeah.
So we told a great story the first time that we wrestled in 2015, I think it was. Yeah, 2015.
That's crazy.
And then we told another great story this last time.
What was the story this last time?
He had a manager, and that dude was trying to... he kept interfering, and I kept having to overcome the interference. And then it was just agility versus power, essentially.
Oh, okay.
Agility versus power.
You were the power and he was the agility, or vice versa?
Vice versa. I was the agility and he was the power.
Oh, okay.
So I was getting tossed around and then landing on my feet like a cat, and then
yeah.
And then trying to overcome his size, and then flying around a lot while he cut me down with, big moves and
big power moves. Yeah.
And big power shots. Boom, boom, boom. So at the end of the day, I didn't win this one. I won the first one. I won the first one in 2015. That was like the start officially of me no longer being a manager, kind of.
So you were managing before you got into it?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It's crazy, this wrestling school stuff. Now that I'm running classes, I've been seeing a lot of stuff myself. But I just took a spot that was offered, and the spot was for a manager that was like a geeky attorney, which I had that character already. I've been a character actor in different capacities over the years. So
Okay, yeah.
I had this character with his backstory. I mean, I related a lot to him. I took all of the bad stuff of going to Catholic school
Yeah.
and turned the volume up on that bitch and put the bass on, the super bass, and then what else? So I made, and plus, you know, I have studied a little bit of law. I'm no lawyer, but I've studied a little bit under an attorney, and I learned a few things. And so I just incorporated all those big words and all that logic into the act, and I created the whole costume myself, which wasn't much. It was just some dockers and some. It was like. You ever seen the movie Leon the Professional?
I have not. I have not seen that.
It's about a hitman, and this hitman, all his clothes doesn't fit well, but he makes sure it's clean and pressed, and it looks decent. But his clothes is like not exactly well form fitting. He's got high waters. He's got like an kind of like an oversized, a little bit of a shirt that doesn't fit too well with the pants, you know, but he still looks crisp. You know what I mean? And they did that on purpose to contrast with the cop whose stuff was all ruffled up, but it was probably like the high end stuff, but it was all ruffled up and disheveled, and you know, he was more of a drug, like a guy on drugs and stuff like that, a little more of a wild, loose cannon. This character, is it Stansfield, and then Leon was the hitman on the other side of the law, but he was more meticulous in the way he took care of his stuff. He exercised regularly, ate healthier, and things like this.
So when you were doing this character, the law character, you were managing other wrestlers too? Because you said manage, right?
Yeah.
So how many other wrestlers were you managing?
I managed one, and then I managed one other one, and that was Che. So the story was that Che was like getting fed up with my shit, and so we feuded, we beefed, and then I overcame that in that match. You know, I won that feud.
Okay.
And I always play with him all the time when I'd see him around, because we never really crossed paths except one other time in a tag team match in San Bernardino, which I forgot about completely till I saw him for the match in May.
The recent one.
Yeah, I forgot about that match because I never saw the footage. And I tend to forget about these. I do them and I forget about them. And sometimes I'll see pictures on my timeline and remember them.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't remember this match. I totally forgot about it. So with Che, he, you know, I've always played around because I've seen him around. And I'll play around like people are waiting for us to conclude our feud. And we can't be seen together and all this, you know, just horsing around with them because, you know, it's an old feud on the independent wrestling scene. Nobody remembers it, but, you know. I'd like to like joke around with the guys like that. So I did the manager stuff. I broke out from there, and then I started just wrestling pretty much anywhere that needed a spot. And so when I train my guys, it's always been a concern to me for them not to make the same mistakes I did. Because that's the one thing I can say that's lacking as far as Southern California is concerned, is the teaching of how to market yourself as a wrestler, to promote yourself as a wrestler, so you don't have to start from like the dirt bottom. You know, I've seen some people come up because they have certain gifts, whether that's through different businesses they've done, or through different education or whatever. They start on a good spot from the get-go. Meanwhile, you got some guys, like I was saying earlier, who are very technically savvy and capable, who get used completely the wrong way by promoters who will value you based on your marketing. I've seen people who have very little skill be put on and glorified, and it doesn't do any favors to the scene to have the spotlight on somebody who has
the best marketing,
but no actual ability to tell the story.
Sauce.
Yes, dry beef patty,
unseasoned.
Yes. It's one of those vegan beef patties.
You're right, though, bro. The vegan beef patties, those things are terrible. Do not eat those. I eat vegetarian. I used to be vegan, and Anytime anyone talks about those what are they called, the Beyond products, I'm like, do not eat them because they're so processed. They have so much crap in them. That's a side note. But
Noted.
we're gonna go to a quick break and we'll be right back. It's hard to live off of like what you do for a living, like, you know, being within the entertainment industry and like really going after it. What's something that has kept you pushing, bro? Because like you said, it's not easy some years, and you know what I'm saying. I mean, even now, like for me, I've been doing this like consistently for the last 5 years, and it's like not every year's the same. Each year changes. You know what I'm saying? And some months are like, oh yeah, I got all kinds of gigs. Other months, no one hits me up. You feel me, for a gig? So it's like, how do you stay going, bro? How do you do it?
I don't know.
Right? You kind of just have to be like, how do I say it? Just lost in your imagination to go after like the things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
In a way. But then it's like, it's hard to just be there because then real life happens, you know what I'm saying? We all got bills, we all got food that we need to pay for, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's difficult, right? It's like, how do we do it?
You gotta go through some difficulty either way. Might as well be able to get it to the end of that, I guess you could say, get to the finish line of life and look back and say, well, I did what I wanted. Because even people that are at jobs they hate still go through the struggle because they have no guarantee either. Because I've heard of people losing their job and it's a rough area. And I went through the same thing between the gigs or through the gigs where I got injured and then undervalued. You know, like I was telling the guys yesterday at training, I broke my tailbone once and I either broke it or bruised it. And at the end of the day, I got paid $15 for that match. 15. I'm being honest. I just took that booking because it was a childhood friend who was trying to start a company. And I was like, all right, yeah, we'll do the show. I never negotiated. I thought I was going to be taken care of better than 15. On top of that, we got scapegoated because they made lots of mistakes on that show. And so he had the wrong guys around him who said, that match with Chaz in it was the worst one. No, it wasn't, brother. We're just the least famous ones. You threw us under the bus. So I gone through that. And I've already accepted. Like I told you today, I was telling a couple promoters, "Hey, I'm gonna take a hiatus." And then we talked, and then they're like, "How about these dates?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll put those dates down." I've already accepted that I'm gonna, in my mind, retire over and over and quit over and over. That's just par for the course, you know.
Because it's so damn difficult, man. Like I go through the same thing too, bro. Like where I have moments where I'm like, all right, I'm hanging up the cleats. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, it's not cleats, it's cameras and shit. But it's like, I have those moments too, because you can burn out, man. You can burn out when you really are taking your passions and trying to make them into a living. Because you have to do things every day to make that a reality. You know what I'm saying? And like, no disrespect to people who have 9-to-5 jobs, but it's a 9-to-5. It stays there. It stays during the week. But I mean, I still respect people who have a 9-to-5 because, bro, it's like that time is away from, like, when you're just doing a job that you're getting a paycheck for, that time is taken away from the things that you're passionate about. So it's like, either way, it's a struggle, man.
It's a sacrifice.
Either way, it's a struggle.
And a struggle.
You know?
You got to pick what you're going to sacrifice. I got made fun of a lot for liking wrestling. I liked it at a time where it wasn't the cool thing to like.
Oh, okay.
I didn't care. It got cool around when The Rock and Stone Cold came around and SmackDown and all that. 98, 99?
That's when I was listening or watching it, bro.
Yeah, and that's when McMahon knew what he was doing. He's a great marketer. McMahon is a phenomenal marketer. Is he a great wrestling guy? He knows how to produce good TV. Like, even with his character, man, I can learn a lot. He's not a great wrestler at all by any means whatsoever, and he's not a great judge of what is good wrestling either. And that's me talking about a guy who's made probably over the years billions of dollars.
It's just his characteristics are just over the chart, huh?
Yeah, he knows how to convey to an audience, how to get reactions out of people. He knows.
Yeah, because as the owner, he comes down and hops in the matches.
He did, and he did even recently. What was it? The last WrestleMania he was in.
He pulled up into the match,
and he got stunnered, and
yeah,
it was funny to see, McMahon in there again. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if part of me is just defiant. But this is what I want to do. It's not the only thing. Like I love martial arts as well, and that's I guess another story for another time. But what keeps me going? I don't know. Somehow in my mind, I'm supposed to be doing this. I mean, I already know, even if, like, when I was thinking about all this, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to structure my time? Because right now, what I'm trying to do is stabilize financially, which 10 years ago is a whole different thing than it is today. 10 years ago, I'm going home with what I consider not much money every week at a 9 to 5. Not really a 9 to 5. It's more like a 11 p.m. to a 10 a.m. 4 times a week. You know what I mean? But I was going home with what I consider
graveyard, yeah.
Yeah. And I was going home with enough money to be comfortable for my lifestyle at the time, but then the goals grow because I've seen what happens when you just let, like I was telling you, $15 to break my tailbone and not be able to walk for a few days. I never went to the doctor for it.
Damn.
This is a fun little story. So I used to be part of a tag team, and this is the first show, and we're the first match on this first show for this one company. So we call a certain thing, and 1 minute into the match, it's executed. Boom. It's not executed well. It wasn't my call. And so I learned a lesson that sometimes you got to tell even your own partner, fuck that, I'm not doing it. I don't feel safe. Nowadays, if people start pressuring me to do stuff I don't like, I'll fucking start snapping. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not.
So people know.
Yeah. Because I
you've
told.
been down the ropes, what happens?
Yeah. And it's my body that's in the air.
Uh-huh.
And if I don't feel comfortable with certain people, I'm not gonna trust it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 1,000. Yep.
Like,
yeah, you should.
Yeah. So on this day, I learned the hard way because I told, I asserted myself a few times, but not. I'll assert myself once calmly, and then the second time firmly, and the third time I'm fucking snapping. Yeah. Because it's my body again. Like, I'm never gonna tell somebody to do something that they don't want to do unless somehow it's necessary. But when you're creating something, you don't go to the fucking guy painting and start bothering him because he's creating intuitively. And so if my intuition says this is not the thing, as an artist, from one to the other, it should be respected. And that's how you create chemistry. So I've been in matches with guys that, anyway, it's been unpleasant. But anyway, over the top rope I went with a flip, and from about a height of maybe like 5 feet, I came crashing straight down to the concrete.
Oh, and, no.
There was no pads.
That's when you broke your, you said collarbone or you said tailbone?
Maybe I bruised it. I don't know.
So you did something to your tailbone.
All I know is I'd fallen like that in the past, and I felt the same pain, but never to that degree. And that's what I was feeling when I was on the ground there, looking up, and I heard the loud response of the audience. I had the adrenaline. I was warm, so I stood up. I'm like, let me walk this off. And so I took the first step, no problem. I took the second step, and it only went a third of the way that it was supposed to go. So I was like, okay, I have to really walk this off. So I started working. I'm just like, let's get back to work here. Boom, boom. 1 minute in, this happens. We get back in the ring, and I'm quasi-motoing my ass around because the only thing I can think is I have to finish this match. Would I make the same decision today? Probably. I would not recommend it. But it's on this day I realized how tough I was because I had to switch stuff up on the fly. But anyway, the match was structured so because we were the faces and the other dudes were the heels. Oh, yeah. And these guys had a good momentum going into this as far as how they were working their stuff in other companies. So when the audience was watching them cheat to separate my partner from me, we finally made it so that he knocks them down and he finally gives me the tag. Boom. Which in pro wrestling is called a hot tag. We build
to hop into the
and get the action going. Boom, boom. Like we're making our comeback now. I structured that. with storytelling. And, when he tagged me, despite the fact that I was limping around, that audience erupted. And that's the loudest I ever heard an audience erupt for something so simple as a tag. But I structured it. And this is only like 3 years into what's been 9 years so far. I felt proud of myself at the moment, and it fired me up because I had never heard it be that loud for a hot tag before. For me, anyway. So I got in there, and I'm quasimodoing with these two dudes that were way bigger than me, so I couldn't easily maneuver them. But I had to still figure out how am I going to do what I planned, because at this point I can't execute my original moveset because I can't guarantee that I'll be able to jump.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much the pain, it's the fact that I don't have my full use of my leg right now.
The strength.
Yeah. Or feeling, really. Like,
it was numb.
Think of, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like, it was a painful numbness. Because when my back hit the fucking concrete, it was like a big gong went off and it went down my right leg. So my right leg was the one dragging behind. I could still feel it. I could put some weight on it. It was painful. But we finished the match. And it was not how I wanted to finish it, but the audience was still shocked at the fact that we won. Boom. And another one, it was like, it seemed like a lackluster finish that still received a good response. So for me, that was feedback that we did good. But literally at that, I think my mind was just, I'm finishing this match. And then right after the match, I couldn't get up.
You were stuck?
Yeah, I had to roll out. I had to have someone carry me to the back. Not full on carry me, but I had to put my arm around someone's shoulder, and they had to help me like a crutch. I got to the back, and there was no position I could be in where I didn't feel in severe pain. So there's a cat named Jungle Boy who's in AEW right now. Really, really cool man. He's Luke Perry's son, and he's building his own legacy right now in the big leagues. He ran somewhere and got me some crutches out of I don't know where. I think he had them in his trunk. And he brought me those crutches, and I crutched my way to my car. Still sweating. I couldn't even change out of my gear. It was too painful. So I just put all my clothes on over and got in the car and drove to work. Because I told these dudes, hey, I got to be at work at 9. It's like that meme where you got to wrestle at 8, but then you got to be at work at 9.
Oh, shit.
I got there 30 minutes late because of my lack of mobility. I called them at 9. I'm like, I'm coming late. I got there. I sat there, did my job for a good 12 hours. And I didn't even get in my car and leave because by the time I cooled down, man, that was some of the most excruciating pain I ever felt. Like, going to the restroom's like a 1-minute thing for a dude. You get up, you go do it, you come back. Yeah. It would take me an hour because of the pain to crutch my way to a restroom. And I had to go like almost essentially like 6 inches at a time on them crutches. And then I got paid those $15, man. So I don't want my guys to go through that. I'm trying to kind of like help my students not have to have those kind of experiences by helping them negotiate and know who are the reputable promoters in the area.
Yeah. That's super important because you're essentially sharing the wisdom, you know what I'm saying, for the next generation. So are you still taking on like coaching as far as like other clients and stuff? Are you still doing that?
Yeah, what it is right now, pandemic hit.
Yeah. And
this one of the mainstays of SoCal, of Lucha Libre, named Acero Dorado, which means golden iron. He just invited me out of the blue one day to go train with him. I mean, I'd seen him around at shows and we talked and we shared a few beers and stuff, but this was a group that had a reputation of being hard asses. Like back in the day, they would destroy the new guys to test them. They're collectively known as the LA fuckers.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And they're all like, some of them been to the companies in Japan back in the day. Some of them, they've wrestled legends. Piloto Suicida's part of that group, which means kamikaze. It's like suicide pilot. He wrestled Eddie Guerrero. He's wrestled. They've wrestled guys like Chris Jericho when those guys were coming up, and they would do shows here in LA. Anyway, he invited me to go train. I got to meet an old school promoter named Enrique Medina. And I pretty much got to sit under the learning tree, both of the technique side under Acero, who was teaching me all kinds of cool stuff, and introducing me to his crew that supposedly were these hard asses, and they took to me. So a lot of there's politics in wrestling, and where I came from, probably there's some people there that would not say nice things about me. It is what it is, but they're probably like tripping out at the fact that I could roll with these guys. I could roll with the tough guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes you got to leave where you're at, even though you've been there for years. You got to decide, this ain't the spot. This ain't the spot for me. And go to another spot. Instead of quitting. Because when I started rolling with guys that would respect me because I took this business seriously, that's when I stopped, in my mind, retiring every fucking week. You know what I mean? Because before that, it's like, fucking shit, I got to quit this bullshit.
Yeah.
Too much bullshit to deal with. And then when I started running with these guys, I started getting paid more. I started getting booked further out. I started getting booked with bigger companies because these guys were old school. I mean, they're all in their 40s and 50s. And so they're looking for who takes this seriously. This is why when they were younger, in their 30s, they would test these guys. And I've heard some stories, like they'll do a leg drop and deliberately sit on a dude's head full weight, this kind of stuff. You know, they'll concuss a dude, they'll stretch a dude, and let them know, hey, this is my ring, essentially. This is my ring. You have to earn your spot in here. But with me, there were moments where I felt maybe that was coming up, and I must have just moved the correct way and with respect and navigate my way without becoming a bitter, without reacting. Because some people will sometimes test you that way. Like, let me do some shit that's disrespectful, but act like I didn't do it on purpose. And just to get him to react so that then I can point out the reaction and be like, fuck you for your reaction that I actually caused secretly.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's like...
It's a bait.
Yes, that's the word. They'll bait you to do something. No one will notice the bait, but they'll notice the reaction to the bait.
Oh, yeah, that's all they'll see.
And then they'll respond to the bait like, what are you... I don't know. There's different ways to go about it. To create the illusion.
Yeah, that's that storytelling right there.
I never used that dynamic to tell a story.
Yeah, because then that's like a different approach, It's like an evil approach, low key. It's like, yeah.
Exactly. And so I guess I never took the bait. But yeah, I got to sit under Enrique Medina and get something from the promoter side, from the old school. Because like I'm saying, the traditions have been lost. And so a lot of this stuff has become stunts with no stories. And how many times can you watch a dude do another
backflip? And it's the same. I know what you mean.
As a guy who took a power bomb from his brother off a roof when I was 15, and that's online to find somewhere, because somehow the VHS survived into the digital age, and I got to watch it recently. I can't believe I did that. It was one of the biggest thrills of my life, but the stunts don't turn me on because I've done them, but I like guys that have good grappling technique, and I like guys that can tell good stories, and women too. I like women who do that stuff. You know what I mean? I like when women represent themselves in the ring and
show up and like really give it their all. It's always exciting, right? Like for me with you, like I get excited just seeing your Instagram, bro. You know what I'm saying? Just because I could see the characters that you're portraying, and like it's so like top tier to me. So how did you come up with Agua Man?
This is funny. Over the years, I used to get told, "You know who you look like?" And at first, I had no clue who they were talking about because I never seen Game of Thrones, and I'm not the one who brag about that. I don't think it's a bragging point that you never seen something.
Yeah.
I just never seen it, and so I would hear this over and over. This Khal Drogo guy or this Jason Momoa guy, and I was like, "All right." It took me a while to finally Google him, and I looked, and I'm like, I don't see it.
You're funny.
I don't see it.
Yeah.
I still don't.
Yeah.
Hey, he's like Australian, I think.
They're just matching your buff and then the hair.
But I'm way buffer than him. And my hair's way nicer. And then it became, you know who you look like? Are you Agua Man? I heard this on Sunday.
No.
I ran into this girl, I guess there was, and so she's like, are you Agua Man? And so I was like, no, I'm El Agua Man.
Yeah.
I had to correct her. No, I don't expect people to know that, but it's just fun, But I there's this one guy, he's a tailor, and he said, you really ought to just go with that. In Spanish, he speaks Spanish. I just got off the phone with him before I came here. I was like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. And but thanks for the idea. But there's no way I'm going to bite off of that. I never watched Aqua Man.
Yeah. Okay.
I watched El Agua Man. It's a better movie. Just kidding. In theaters soon. I never seen it. I don't. Jason Momoa seems like a great guy. I just never. I'm not necessarily a fan, but he seems like a great guy. You know, I can see why people are a fan. I'm not a fan of that though. I'm not a fan of them. So anyway, the next day like I tell you, he's a tailor. The next day he sends me pictures of the gear already made.
That's hilarious.
And it was fucking sweet gear, but I was like, all right, I'll try your shit out. You know, I'll put this shit on. So when people would call me El Aquaman de Lucha Libre Mexicano, I'll be like, no, El Agua Man. And then I started playing around that, you know, that guy might sue me, which there's never been anything like that. I never got a cease and desist from DC or whatever. But then it became, I got to sue him because he stole my shit.
Yeah.
Why not just switch it and bullshit and then act like you really mean it? That's the key about pro wrestling, is that does he really mean it? So
I love that.
I will not say just kidding after I tell people I just met that I'm suing this guy for stealing my...
Now you shouldn't though, because it creates all of the animosity and like the emotional attachment that you're saying, the investment, you know, like you get pulled in. When I saw that where you were posting that, I was like, really? You know what I'm saying? So yeah, bro, it's like don't stop on that. Like keep the pedal, you know what I'm saying, on that, because that's tight, bro. I love it. Give me, like, what would you rather be? What do you like better when you're wrestling? Being like full suited, like to the T, like with the tailored, right? Or like freaking Speedo. You feel me? Like just a Speedo only and like, what's up? Like, what is it for you? What do you like more? What do you like more dressing into? Or you don't have a preference. You don't care. Like, what is it?
Usually I base it off the weather and the environment. Like, I remember one time, okay. So yeah, I've wrestled in some spots where it was really hot and we were outdoors, so the sun's directly on us, and the canvas of the ring is vinyl and all this.
So it makes it way hotter, right? The ring?
Yeah. Once upon a time, I tried to wrestle with the full body suit of El Agua Man, which Jason Momoa ripped off, and then it was like 100 degrees out in Santa Anita racetrack is where we had that show. I remember almost having heat stroke. And I've only had heat stroke once in my life. It was the day that Cali broke the record. SoCal broke the record. It was like 118 degrees. And I went and trained jiu-jitsu hard in a competitive class. And I was in a rush, so I didn't hydrate that day. And I was just thinking, even the steam was coming off the mats. That's how hot it was. And it was a competition. So we were going hard. So I went and dehydrated already from the night because I woke up like, oh, shoot, I better leave in 5 minutes because I'm going to be late. So I didn't even do my normal routine of like a nice long 15, 20-minute shower, drinking like half a gallon of water before I exit, just to start the day off for hydration. And then got on the mats with this, did this intense activity. And I did have heat stroke that day. But then flash forward to this day that I had this full gear on and I wrestled the OC local. He wrestles in Mexico too, named Red Spider. His dad makes me the Speedos, actually.
Oh, he's the tailor.
His dad, yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
The connections right there.
Yeah.
Damn, that's wild.
So I got a full body suit guy and I got a choni guy.
Yeah. So on that, so it really just matters environment then, and like the whole situation, like, because it seems like you do it all. You can do whatever the hell you want. That's
yeah. And of course there's logic behind it, and should I say artistic sensibility to what I'm going to wear. For example, one time it was so I wrestled Red Spider. I had the full body Agua Man suit on, and that's like, that day, that must have been about a year ago. I had that must have been last summer, actually.
Last summer was one of those. We had the heat wave. That was it during the heat wave?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's one of these over 100 days.
Yeah.
And then we're out there, and I'm putting in the work on this match because I was champion of that company. So I said, hey, I'm putting in work. Like I'm gonna put it all out there.
Yeah.
And so I remember sitting, like undressing after the match and sitting there for a while, just like waiting to recover. And the recovery just wasn't coming the way it normally does. Because after a match, you cool down and adrenaline dump occurs and you got to hydrate and everything, and it just wasn't coming. And then I drove off and still feeling like I was still recovering, and it hit me, okay, this is like that one time in 2018 when I had that heat stroke. So I did the same bullshit. I sat at a 7-Eleven parking lot for like 3 hours, just got a coffee here, got some water here, got some Pedialyte there, I got some coconut water here, and then
just
I got
hydrating.
just sitting there, just vegging out, like waiting for the haze to disappear, which is the best thing you could do. The AC was cranked all the way up, and windows up, and just let the cool air.
Yeah, bro, you gotta, take care of yourself, big dog. You know what I'm saying? Because ain't no one else gonna do it for you. That's the same for me too, like, and everyone else. Like, for health wise, like, no one's gonna do it for you. You gotta control as much as you can as far as your health, and like, things like when you have a heat stroke, you gotta take care of yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you gotta do the proper steps. And like, but for you, it's way more tricky. You know what I'm saying? Because you guys wrestle outside sometimes, during the day, and it's like scorching hot. Like, that must be wild. Talk to me about like how many characters you've gone through, because I know you've had other characters as well. What are some of the characters that you've had in the past?
The memorable ones, there's 2 plus what I'm doing now. And there's way more characters that I've played with, but the ones people will bring up to me still after all these years. One is one I had when I was backyard wrestling. And I'm obligated with a gun to my head to say, don't do this at home, kids. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not. I had a lot of fun doing it at home. I'm not telling people to go do it, but shit, I had fun. And so the character name was Super Chunti. And I don't know if that word even exists anymore, but I've learned that it's not a word that exists outside of LA. I don't think it exists outside of LA.
I've definitely heard that word before, though.
It's not a term you want to use if you're talking to politically correct. But this character was, again, a whole backstory to this character that I came up with. That's the orange jumpsuit guy with the Fuerza Guerrera mask, and I developed this whole character, and I put an accent, and all I really did was my parents' accent, because they came as immigrants from El Salvador to the U.S. They still have accents, It wasn't me clowning. I was just, but I was being comedic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was kind of just being like a dude who's an immigrant. Doing the same stuff. Like, even in the videos from when I'm 14, 15 in the backyard, I'm responding to the audience in live, even midair, like if they're, someone said something about, cut the chalupa or something. And I'm like, yeah. Anyway,
You respond.
Yeah. I was pretty spot on still, with the wit, even as a youngster, but
it was Super Chunti. I like that. No, that's tight.
And the costume is what made it go over, plus the accent, which then I guess you could say that the next character, which was the manager guy I was mentioning, the lawyer guy with the suspenders, which I love suspenders, so I still wear them. But I would have the high waters, which I actually still have high waters. But I had a button-up suit with, the tie was perfect. Everything, again, would be pressed right before the show. I would press everything. I would not shave until show day, so everything would be scruffy.
Fresh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I learned to fade myself back in the day. Believe it or not, there's some pictures that exist still of me with a fade, and the hair, the top of it is maybe like an inch. So I'd fade it up, and everything except for the mustache, I'd be clean shaven. Otherwise, I was kind of raggedy. I had a voice for him. So it was kind of, without knowing it, 2 extremes, 2 opposites, because you had the guy who was like
super bossy, like corporate. Yeah.
And it's probably going to get me canceled to say, but I was like a whitewashed guy.
Yeah.
I had a high-pitched voice, and I would use squirrely motions and all this, and I would act unathletic, even though I was, and still am.
Pause that real quick. We'll go to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
I'm an artist, and I typically don't do provocative art necessarily.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah, you like having fun with it, and that's awesome because like with your characters, with what you were saying before the break, was that you had two different opposite characters that were like very impactful for people, like, and
Super Chunti ended up on MTV. He ended up in Stance magazine, which was a skate magazine back in the 90s.
How did you get onto MTV, bro?
I don't know. But these dudes would always just show up with cameras, and then they'd be like, "This is just for fun," and then I'd end up hearing about it later.
Oh my god!
They didn't tell me, "Hey, we're gonna put you on MTV." These dudes came and said, "We're doing a college project," and I don't.
Oh my god! I can't believe they did that. Those bastards! They did that so they didn't have to pay you guys.
Exactly, and it was the top-rated True Life. I'm a Backyard Wrestler was a top-rated True Life.
It was the True Life shit. Oh my god!
And they caught me on a bad day because I was having girl trouble, and you know when you're 14 and having girl trouble.
Feel bad for you, son.
Yes, I felt bad for me too. And they caught it on camera, and it was broadcast.
Oh man!
They didn't know that's what it was,
Yeah,
but if you go watch that episode, people be like, "Why'd you do that?" And I'll always be like, "Because I was pissed about the match." But in reality, I was having girl trouble.
That's crazy though. Like that even happened. You know what I'm saying? That off of you said Chunti. What's the name again?
Super Chunti.
Super Chunti. Baby's back home. Shoot, now you guys are gonna hear her in the background.
Nice.
Nah, but yeah, it's like, to me, it's a beautiful thing when people really take the time to really craft what they're doing, whatever industry that they're working in, whatever entertainment space that they're working in, and that's what you're doing right now. You know what I'm saying? And I totally get it that it's not easy. You feel me? Like, people see the Instagram and they see the pictures and they think like, oh, he's just, another wrestler that is tough or whatever. But it's like stories like that you told me where you only got $15 and like you couldn't even walk after the match. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Those are the type of stories that people don't know about, I guess, because like within the WWE space and all the super big corporations, you get the big stories that are up top, right, with the characters, but then the human side of it, right, and like what these people go through is like, and what you go through, it's your body that like can give out at one point, right? I mean, you guys are human at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? And like you guys put your bodies on the line every time you guys get into that match, so it's pretty wild.
I agree. And with the human side, yeah. I mean, I've seen people. What do people consider success, right? I had to have this kind of like talk with myself, because man, if you don't have success defined for yourself, you're gonna have all kinds of people crawling in trying to tell you what you should be happy about, and it's super annoying. I get annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you asked me about the big leagues and the underground. Truth be told, I've had friends in the big leagues that had bad experiences. I've seen people who went there and they were getting paid really well just to sit around and not be used on the competition, We're going to sign you so that you can't we know you're good. We have in our mind version of you, and we're going to sign you a contract. We're going to keep you just sitting at home, and we're not going to build you, and this keeps you from helping the competition beat us, because we recognize your talent and we don't want you using it to beat us.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
These situations occur. It's the artists aren't always respected, and the wrestlers aren't always respected. WWE, sometimes they go scout general elite athletes in colleges, and they'll sign them despite them not being wrestling fans or knowledgeable in wrestling. And I can see why. Like Triple H said it, they have less habits to break in these people because they get to mold them from ground zero, as opposed to some of the guys who are out here like doing all kinds of things that don't fit in WWE, and they're wrestlers and they've been wrestlers and they went to a wrestling school. So there's way less habits to break. You know what I mean? Like it's like you have no training, but you have gifts athletically and you have aesthetics. So they can tell you from the get-go, here's what we need from you, as opposed to the guys who have their wrestling philosophy and the things they want to do. So it's not always that they're out there looking for the best wrestling minds, because those guys may not be the thing they're trying to present on TV. Mm-hmm. They have a reputation of pushing a particular guy who the audience didn't take to. But when I look at that guy, I see him as marketable. Roman Reigns. Super marketable. It's always the vocal wrestling fan, the most vocal ones that think they're speaking for everybody. But I think people actually like that guy a lot. I like I said, I don't really follow the stories or watch it much. But I think that in particular, he's big with like he's another guy that stole my look, but he's just not as buff as me or anything, or handsome. You know, him and Momoa, actually, I could see a resemblance there. There's a resemblance there for sure. I could see the resemblance between those two. So, with that said, what was the question?
Nah, it's all good. Don't even trip. We're just going back and forth, riff-raffing right there. But my next question is, I know you're Salvi, bro. And so, what would you rather, what's your favorite? Pupusas or cheese bread? Because your sister made me made the family cheese bread one time. And I ate the whole thing, you know what I'm saying? Type vibe. So it's like, me, like, being a Mexican, you know what I'm saying? And, like, this is obviously separate from wrestling, we're talking, you know what I'm saying? But, like, pupusas versus freaking, like, your guys' traditional cheese bread. What's your favorite?
Pupusas. Because I'm a salt guy. I'd rather have salt than sweet.
Okay.
I'm the type of guy that will drink pickle juice.
Oh, really? Dude, I could never really get into pickles like that.
No?
Nah. But what's one of your favorite pupusas? Like, do you have a certain style, or is just any pupusa?
I like the big ones. They're the big round ones that have all you can see the cheese has oozed out and has even been grilled, so you have that little crispy sort of burnt cheese just kind of lingering on the side of the pupusa itself. Plus you got I like it with a bunch of curtido, especially the juice, because it's sour.
Oh, yeah.
My mouth is watering. I'm the type of guy who would, as a kid, I would put salt on a lemon and just eat it. And I would do that over and over, and then my gut would hurt, and I'd keep doing it, I don't know, this might be a little past some people's time, but I used to get sick off of Lucas.
Oh, yeah, Lucas? I know Lucas. Yeah. So you're in the right zone right here. All my people that are on this podcast know Lucas. Come on, man. Goddamn, we should not have been just on salt, you know what I'm saying, with our dirty ass hands.
I did not watch it.
Right? Fuck.
That's why we have good immune systems.
Drinking from the fountain and the hose, drinking water from the hose outside when you're going crazy as a kid.
I love when the hose bring me water. The hose are wonderful ladies. I'm just kidding.
I like how you did that right there. Do you have any advice for any upcoming wrestlers, bro?
Yeah, I do. Learn from everybody. Learn different styles. If you see politics going on, there's a lot of it. Get away from those environments. My students are all former students of other places, and as a guy who went through a very toxic environment as well in wrestling, like I said, it'll make you want to quit. I've seen people quit because they were under people who had no business being coaches. How can you tell a good coach? There was a good list out there, but there are some accolades that they would need, like, for example, first aid, CPR, AED certification. That shows that they're serious about taking care of you, because there's some guys out there that don't really care about your health. If you get hurt, it's your fault and tough shit and get out of here. You can't hang. And I don't agree with that. At all. Like, wrestling is a thing where, you're going to get banged up, you're going to get bruised, and you're going to get bloodied. Accidents happen. You're doing a physical art activity. It's a sport. But you shouldn't be leaving with broken bones or with life-threatening injuries, or leaving with like a lack of mobility if you're not doing those wild moves. I broke my tailbone on a wild move. I separated my shoulder on something that should not have even hurt me, and it was just a freak accident. I never blamed the guy. Not his fault. One thing was just out of place by maybe 3 inches, and boom, shoulder out of socket. So that's one thing. You got to look at the environment and make sure you have a facility that look at the pedigree of your trainers as well. So you got to make sure that these guys have had students, which for as a trainer who's pretty new myself, as a guy who's emerging as a trainer and learning these ropes, I'm proud of the development of my students, but I personally can't vouch for having produced a student that has had success in wrestling yet. My partner, who I'm under, Robbie Phoenix, he can. So he has some names under him that he's produced. The other thing you want is a facility that has a professional ring and a clean environment. Now, I'm saying this as a guy who's running classes out of a backyard. So I haven't had a grand opening for my school because we're the little engine that could.
Mm-hmm. Like you got to start somewhere at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've been in a backyard. When Acero invited me to train at Medina's, it was in a backyard in a tent that Medina literally built with his own hands as a shrine to his memories as a promoter over the years. Because Medina's about 75, and so he's been involved in wrestling since he was in his 20s. Oh. So this was a shrine, and he had a ring, and he kept that ring there just to stay in shape. At some point, he shut it down, and so we went to another spot, to another gentleman's house, and that guy's been really, really cool with us. So I've done some work to set the stuff up. I got mats around the ring, and we got a canopy overhead because it's near the mountains, and when the wind comes in or the rain comes in, man, it comes hard. Mm-hmm. But the facility's important too. There's a reason I'm not promoting hard. It's more of a word of mouth. Come train, and I got like a rotating door of guys that come train with me. But as far as building students from the ground up, you want to make sure that they have a curriculum. It's not just, well, you're just going to do what we do, because you're a day one guy. You need to have your neck strengthened. You need to have your core strengthened. You need to be able to do basic exercises like push-ups, pull-ups, squats, sit-ups. With those in place, if you're able to sustain those, you'll be able to hang. You got to get the cardio up. And you can do all those on your own before you even go to wrestling school. That way, by the time you get there, you're not overwhelmed by the volume of physical activity, especially the cardio, because you run those ropes back and forth 10 times for the first time. Not only will your back feel like it's being tenderized on a cutting board, not literally cutting you, but people do get bruised and they'll have those welts on their back. I don't even feel it anymore. I could bounce off those ropes all day and my back don't feel anything. But I'll still see guys come in and they'll be complaining about, how do I hit? No, just hit them the way we told you, because eventually your back will be able to sustain. That's just steel cable, and it's just tied tight. It looks like it's rubber, but maybe you get a layer of rubber around it if you're lucky. But it's steel cable. The neck is really important to build. Because if you don't have a strong neck, that's when the head ends up slapping on the mat when you fall. And that's one thing, you want to protect the head. Yeah. That's very important, the brain, the neck. Yeah. At the end of the day, I'm trying to leave wrestling. I'll make sacrifices for it because I love the art. I'm still developing myself. What else would I say? Learn to, once you have all that physical stuff in, and never give up on that and keep developing it, never stop learning. Because I've seen too many guys come into they get their basic 3 months training in. They learn how to bump. They learn how to roll. They learn how to do basic moves. And now it's like, well, hey, I'm a pro. What the hell do I need to train for? But in my opinion, you're not a pro if you don't train. Mm-hmm. How can you say you're a pro if you're not actively training? Mm-hmm. I know some guys will get triggered if they listen to this by me saying that, because they know they're not keeping up with their training. They're just like, and not just that, don't just stick with one place. Like, you always have to be challenged. If you're already comfortable with what you're doing,
go to a different place
and learn a different style altogether. Yeah. I mean, there's a general rule in wrestling. The Americans do it on the left. The Mexicans do it on the right. The Japanese do it on the left too. And if you're in the game, you know what I'm talking about. I've had guys, and I do both. Uh-huh. So if I wrestle a dude from Mexico, we're going to do it the way they do it down there. But if I wrestle a dude from America, I know that way too. Now, I'm ambidextrous, so my brain it'll take the quote unquote wrong side, and some guys freak out, like they have a conniption of the fact that I took the right arm. It's like, bro, just move with it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's what happens when you don't train. You're so fixated on routines and rules that you don't know how to just have fun with stuff, and the audience can read that. So that gets to my final point, which is, once you've handled finding the right place to train, continuing your training to get better, realize that we're nothing. This is for the guys that are already on the scene. We're nothing. It doesn't matter how good you think your match is. If you didn't connect, you wasted your time and you wasted their time. Because at the end of the day, if you want to go and do all this stuff in the backyard by yourself with your homeboy and then talk about how great your match was and you're happy with that, that's cool. If you want to really know that you did a good job, you have to serve the promoter, you have to serve the fans. If you don't be surprised when you don't get the call back. Because it doesn't matter if you go viral. It doesn't matter if you did the greatest move never done by anyone ever. If you don't serve the fans, if you don't connect with them, if you don't give them what they came to see, and if you don't give the promoter a professional conduct and presentation, don't expect to be called back. So all these things are mistakes I've made. That's why I say them.
No, that's important.
I'm not saying it from a place of judgmentality. I'm saying it from a place of experience that I've made all these mistakes. And shit, sometimes I still do. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
yeah, it's not easy sometimes. Sometimes it's the things that we know and, you know, to be true and acting out on them. Like, sometimes it's not easy. You get caught up in doing something too fast, or, you know, you rush and you don't perform how you're supposed to. So it's like,
sometimes, like you said earlier, you just spread too thin. And I've had times where I had to call a promoter and be like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry, I forgot to look on the flyer. I'll be there like right on time. Because you're supposed to be there personally, I like to be there 2 hours before the doors open.
Yeah.
Because then I get to chill and I get to
warm up, get ready. Yeah.
Everything. And I have had times where I'm walking in as they're opening the door to the public. So these guys are watching me walk in with my bag and everything. And not that that's horrendous. At least I'm better than no showing. Or better than... I've done it where it's like, hey, I used to work, 65 hours a week. And it was majority of it during the weekend. And that's when all the shows are. So one time I went home and I got there around maybe like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. I had to be up by 3 p.m. to get to the show. Well, I woke up around 4:30.
Oh, no.
And I had to be putting my gear on at the red light and making the call. I'm coming. And by the time I got there, it was all good because they started the show late. So, but still, that was a scary day.
Yeah.
For me. Nah. I'm like, I don't want to miss out on what I'm doing here. So
that's crazy, man. Because you're really like, at the end of the day, you were grinding. Like, you're, you know, making a living, working your job, and then trying to still, you know, do your passion in those situations. Do you have any shout outs, bro? Any shout outs?
Acero Dorado, thank you for everything. I probably would have retired during the pandemic if I weren't for him. Not retired, but I was heavily considering just disappearing until he invited me to go, and bam, it was back on. So he lit the fire under my ass.
Shout out to you, bro.
Maestro. And then I'd like to thank Robbie Phoenix for all the years of support and training, because I'm still learning under him all these years later. Who else I want to thank? I want to thank Piloto Suicida. I got to watch him as a kid, and he's helped me a lot in both in getting matches. Like, he's helped me get booked with some of the better companies here in SoCal.
That's so tight. And you saw him as a kid, bro?
And I remembered him as a kid. He's the guy I remembered because I was like, Piloto Suicida, that's cool. And he always comes up with a cape. His mask looks like a pilot's, like aviators. He's got the eyes covered, so it's like it's kind of mysterious stuff going down. Like, you don't know what his eyes are.
That's tight.
Look like. So he conceals his identity well. And he's recovering from a shoulder surgery. I'm gonna say what's up to let's see, Trigger Gonzalez. That's my boy. He runs Lucha Pro in 132 Florence Avenue. They just had a show this past Friday. I haven't wrestled for his company for a little bit, and I'm thinking I'll head down there pretty soon. Miss him and the fam. I saw his daughter just had a little birthday. 8 years old, so that was pretty sweet. I saw the pictures on Facebook. Let's see who else I want to give a shout out to. Enrique Medina for providing the environment for me to continue during the pandemic and stay in shape, because that was my main concern during the pandemic was
the gyms were closing, all that stuff, yeah.
And we had to go underground, so I was over there with my like super hot coffee, killing the virus in case it entered my lungs. You know what I mean? That was my thing. Let me drink super hot coffee. It's like a sanitizer every 5 minutes.
Dude, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But still getting like, hey, what are we doing here? We're literally training. We're not gonna. If you got it, I got it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And then I'd like to. Yeah, I think we'll leave it. Okay, I'm gonna give one more shout out to Veronica. I believe it's Camarena. Camarena is how you say her name. And Ruben Garza. Those are just some super fans. And they always provide us with cool pics and videos, especially Veronica. But Ruben's always there in support as well. And so I'm grateful for fans like that. Alberto Padrecito Cortez, he's another guy I'm very grateful for. Wonderful family man. And he brings the kids. And so these are the memories that'll stay with me once I'm old and shriveled. And just looking back on all this stuff, because it's going to go away one day.
Yeah, for sure.
And so those are the memories I'm going to take with me. There's lots of people coming to mind all of a sudden, but I think I'll leave it right there,
Yeah, shout out to everyone, man. Shout out to you. Thanks for coming on the podcast, bro.
Thank you for having me.
And, pulling up on me, sharing your experience, sharing your story. To me, it's history, man. Like, each time I bring someone new in here, I, geek out because I get to learn so much new stories and experience that people go through. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing, for real. So thank you for your time, dude.
Absolutely.
Real.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and also don't forget to like the video, comment down below, give me a subscription. You know what I'm saying? We'll see you next week. Peace out, yo.